Hello and welcome to The Thirsty Mage, the podcast that's much more likely to catch Pokemon than 40 Winks. I'm your host for this episode, Jordan Rudek, and today we'll be sharing our impressions of Pokemon Legends Arceus, as well as discussing a handful of Pokemon games and other titles we ended up passing on. Before I start gushing over what might be the best Pokemon game ever made, we'll find out who's joining me. First up is an individual who would definitely make the RPG podcast Elite Four. That's David Lloyd.
Yes, and I would definitely abuse that position until I was dethroned by some up-and-coming punk. Young punk.
Yeah, some punk who thinks shorts are comfy and easy to wear, no doubt.
Yeah, and they would probably think that turn-based JRPGs are yesterday's news, and so the Elite Four would automatically just be terrible.
I hate the idea that turn-based RPGs are like passe, and you're not allowed to make them anymore unless you're making like an indie game or something. But speaking of punks who might like shorts, a fellow whom we might never hear from again if a Pokemon MMO were ever released, that's Casey Gibson.
Yes, yeah, that would definitely consume quite a bit of time. But I want to get back to David's. Did he dub himself the Elite Four there? I mean, he is a Maple Leafs fan. He'd be like the first gym leader.
He's the Brock of our podcast.
Well, that's Brock. It seems like good. I'd only have to take care of 2 Pokemon.
And they're rocks, so they just sort of sit there, right?
Yeah.
You got to protect them from Gorons, though.
If it were the anime, Pikachu would still be able to beat you somehow by shocking Onyx's thunder shocking Onyx's horn, which
damn plot armor.
But, yeah, exactly. That's
just quick attack him to death.
Yeah, it only takes 30 tries. And finally, I dare say this is our resident Pokemon expert, based solely on her wardrobe. It's Paige Chamberlain.
Well, to be fair, I don't think Black Mook's made any Pokemon collaborations with men's clothing or that in general, so it's not your fault.
I do have a button-up shirt that is like a turquoise color, and then it's got little Pikachus all over it.
My brother has something like that as well, like a dark blue one with I think we got it from the Pokemon Center in Japan. It's got a little Charizard above the shirt pocket. So
I feel like I found mine in Marshalls or something weird.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But no, David.
So that's the crew we've got for this podcast this week. So we are going to be talking about Pokemon Legends. We're going to for those of us who didn't take the plunge on that one, shame on you. But we do have some other
half of us played, half of us didn't.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good ratio. It's not just me alone or Paige alone playing Legends, so that's good. But yeah, we're going to talk about some Pokemon generations we skipped on. We'll probably start with that. Then we'll head into our Legends Arceus impressions. Paige and I will cover that. And then some games we passed on. Larger games mostly, maybe some smaller ones too. We'll see when we get there. But why don't we start with, Pokemon is ubiquitous with Nintendo. They're kind of inseparable. I was listening to a recent Retronauts podcast about Pokemon Gen 1. And I'm totally a Gen 1 fan. I love the Pokemon designs from that one. I'm happy to keep going back to Kanto, maybe too much. And I know some people have gotten sick of it, obviously. But David, what about Pokemon generations you didn't play? I know you've played a bunch of games in the series, but which ones did you maybe miss out on?
Well, for me, it's funny that I played the early ones and then ended up missing a lot of the in-between ones because I didn't actually have a GBA or a DS at the time when those came out. So I didn't play Pokemon Diamond and I didn't play Black and White. And then I ended up getting back into Pokemon when I purchased the 3DS. And then it was more like going back and playing old ones. I ended up playing Omega Ruby and whatever the other one is, the Alpha Sapphire. I'm actually looking at my wall to see which ones. And then I ended up playing X and Y, Pokemon Moon. And it's funny because I didn't even realize I owned the Diamond version on DS. And I actually, now that I see the box, I recall the whole way it went down. So on, what was it? Whatever, I'm trying to think what, Kijiji. So on Kijiji, I was looking for the Pokemon, because years ago I hadn't played Diamond, and I'm like, I wouldn't mind playing Diamond. So go on Kijiji and find it. And so I go to like one of the shadiest neighborhoods in Ottawa, and like the guy gave me his address, but he was waiting in front of the building. So I'm like, this is a lot. And I'm like, he hands me the thing and I open it up and I look at it and I'm like, okay, I mean, it looks like a thing. I gave him the cash and I went on my way. And when I get home, I put it in and it was like, so this was like a guy my age, but then it was like Tina or something. Like it was told, like, it made me think, it's like, I wonder if this guy like stole this game and I just bought it.
Probably.
That's
So.
It might not have even been his building that he was standing in front of. Standing in front of a random building, so you don't route him out to the cops or something like that.
So as one does, I deleted the save and started my own and went about my life.
Yep.
So, but I never got past, like, apparently, like, because I don't remember anything from it. So I think I might have played like
he never made it past Tina.
No, I made it just long enough to delete her save from the existence of reality and replace it with my own name and then never touch it again.
Now, Tina, if you're out there listening, David would be happy to mail you that copy of Pokemon to the Diamond. You said
like $200 now.
Yeah, that's right. Yes,
I'm not giving it up.
That's a good investment by you. I think buying someone else's stolen Pokemon game. Yeah,
and I specifically remember spending $40 because it was two $20 bills. Cheap. So I made it like a bandit. So
not too bad.
Net positive.
Yeah,
that's right. Everyone came out.
Pokemon Generations, you skipped on it. I know you're a pretty big Pokemon fan, so I would have said, Paige didn't skip any of them. She must have played almost all of them, right?
Wrong.
Oh, no.
So first of all, played doesn't mean beat, because as a kid I never beat pretty much anything with the exception of a couple games. But my first exposure to the mainline Pokemon games, because I guess Pokemon Stadium was probably the first Pokemon game I knew, was playing my uncle's copy of Pokemon Gold, where I had my Cyndaquil and I was struggling, and then he was like, "You've got to catch other Pokemon. You can't just breed it with one Pokemon." And then I didn't play like Sapphire and that. I think my brother did. I did play a bit of Pokemon Pearl. I didn't play Black and White. And then from Pokemon X onward, that's when I started playing every Pokemon game, because Pokemon X was actually the first mainline Pokemon game I beat. Like we went through the whole thing, and then I played Moon, and then didn't play much of Let's Go, but yeah, from then on I've picked up every new Pokemon release.
You've become a bigger Pokemon nerd as time has passed, is what we're getting here.
That's the takeaway.
Oh, that's why Paige is on the podcast. We needed at least two Pokemon nerds, and I'll count myself among them, because when Pokemon Red and Blue came out, I was rushing home with my pals every day to watch the anime and play the games, and I remember trading Pokemon in grade 9 science class and battling and stuff like that. Battling my Mewtwo versus someone else's like Raticate and just like stomping them. Good. Those are good high school times. Even though I'm sure the people that
Jordan
I played
was
against,
bullying all the other kids on the playground.
Oh, they're traumatized still, no doubt. But I was happy to reign supreme. Pokemon Generations, I don't know if I ever skipped an entire generation. I think for me, what I really skipped out on, maybe, and almost I regret it a little bit, I never really played any of the third versions. So I didn't play Pokemon Yellow, Platinum, Crystal. I can't remember what other third versions there might have been after that, but Emerald, I guess, was one. Yeah. I always skipped those ones because I feel like I'd already played. I was buying the games, close to launch or getting them around when they came out. So by the time a third version came out, I'd already have finished the base game, the blue or red, whichever version I got.
Wasn't worth the extra purchase.
And so I don't think I never felt like there was enough content to justify it. And I never got the games late enough such that the third version was out. And I think some of the third versions are actually pretty good. Like, I've heard a lot of good things about Crystal and Emerald, especially. And I played a little bit of Yellow on my 3DS when it came to Virtual Console. But again, just feels pretty similar to Blue and Red, not different enough. But if that was if the third version was your first exposure to the series, like I felt like you really got, you kind of got the total package there, right? Casey, what about you?
Casey.
Any Can you think of any Pokemon generations specifically that you missed out on, or purposely skipped, or maybe even regret skipping?
Yeah, I've been through. So like, yeah, I remember I played my friend's Pokemon Blue, and that was like the instant I was like, "Mom, I need a Game Boy Pocket and Pokemon
Right.
for Christmas. Like, I don't care, and it like nothing else. Just if I can get that, I need it. You know."
Yeah, top
Um,
of the list.
and that was the big craze. I was in like fourth grade, I think, when that like the real big craze, because I remember Pokemon cards and all that good stuff. But yeah, I played the first generation there. I remember asking for gold for Christmas and then telling my mom like a week before Christmas, I don't even want Pokemon Gold anymore. And I remember her telling me later on, she's like, "Yeah, well, I had to go return it." So I never played the second gen actually.
I thought
I
you were
think I
going to
got
say you actually wanted silver instead, so you had to go
yeah.
replace it with silver.
Well,
No,
that
one
actually
Crystal replays it go.
well, it's
Oh
funny
yeah.
the first one she didn't know which one to get me, so she got me red and blue.
Mhm.
With the original. But I guess I skipped the next two and I played, I got back into like Fire Red and Leaf Green, which
Yeah, those are
obviously
great.
just re-releases. I played Diamond and Pearl, didn't play Heart Gold or Silver, didn't play Black or White or Black or White 2. I did play X and Y, and then I did play Sun. I played Let's Go. I played a little bit of Sword and Shield, a very little bit of Diamond. And I tell you what, guys, I didn't get Arceus until about an hour and a half ago.
Oh, I love it. I
I'm
love
opening
to
it
hear it.
first. I don't know if you can hear that.
Bought it
Open
after
it up
all.
right now on the podcast.
This is the
Oh.
real first impression, a live unboxing
Yeah,
impression.
we're live unboxing. I can only imagine. I might have seen it. I don't remember, but they usually have a cool inside, right?
Yeah.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
So what
There it
sold
is.
you then? Why did you pick that up?
Because I'm weak. No, pretty much Perry and Alex were just being big old gusher boys. Alex, like I said, he put 37 hours in from when it launched. He was
Ooh.
done with it before recording on yesterday. So he was like, "This is a crazy game," and Perry's really loving it. And you know what? Everyone's like saying it's sort of faster pace, right? It's not sort of like the slow, monotonous Pokemon turn based, which I love turn based combat, but like I feel like Pokemon's a little slow, right? So this one seems like it's just, I don't know, everything's saying yes, so I'm not gonna be afraid to dig into the hype a little bit,
Yeah, we'll get to those impressions in a minute. I don't think you're going to regret it. It's just such a different game. Black and White 2. I wanted to just touch on Black and White 2. For those of us who played it or didn't like that, I feel like that was one like I very kind of purposely skipped, almost because I just moved on to something else, or like the idea of playing like a sequel to a direct sequel to a Pokemon game within that same world just felt like overkill to me. Even though I've heard really good things about Black and White 2 since.
Yeah,
I
heard
might
that's
have even picked
pretty
it up
highly regarded.
later, but I still don't remember playing it. Definitely played Black or White, whichever one, but the sequel just felt like too much. I don't know if anyone else has played Black and White 2 and has some thoughts about it.
I remember wanting to actually, because it was one of those, like, I felt like a Pokemon game. I don't remember at this point when it was, but like people were like, yeah, the like Black and White and Black and White 2, like they're both really good, but they're just so darn expensive right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
That it was one I wanted to check those games out, but yeah, it's just not enough to drop like $80 or whatever the heck they cost.
Sure.
I realized I did technically play a GBA Pokemon game because I got given Leaf Green, and I found my childhood copy, and I was apparently I gave up at Mount Moon, and I was quite stuck and nearly dead, looking at like all my poor Pokemon. It's
I always love
not a
when,
good
like,
time for a child.
I love when you go back to an old game and you see where you were stuck, and then like you're like, well, let me try it now, and you do it in like one shot, and you're like, man. Well, I was just like a dumb little kid. I did that with Fire Emblem a few times where I'd be like, I remember being so stuck. And then like years later, I restarted and I was like, oh no, here's the mission. I'm in trouble. And then it was just like the easiest thing I'd ever done. I was like, geez.
You say that age comes with wisdom, Casey. So, or wisdom comes with age, I guess. And so, if it applies to Fire Emblem, that's really all that matters, I think, right? So this is great. So Casey's just opened the game. Now we can spend the rest of the episode trying to peer pressure David into buying it because it's 3 against 1 at this point, right? So that's good.
We demand you play.
Yeah, that's Arceus speaking, not Casey anymore.
If you go to Walmart, $10 off.
I think
I don't know if we. I was gonna say I don't know if we have that up here. I don't know. I just looked up what the yeah, I know. I just looked up the how long to beat for Monarch and saw that it was over 80 hours. So now I might be fast. It might be harder for me to pick up Pokemon Arceus after seeing that. So
yeah,
no, you need to pick it up and you need to play through all of it on the post game, so we can do the post game spoiler cast.
Well, remember on the episode a couple weeks, was it last week or a couple weeks ago, where we were talking about RPGs coming up, and you were so excited about Monarch, and you just tried to put it to the front of the list. So before we talked about like Elden Ring and Horizon, you want to talk about Monarch. So I get it. Like I think that's part of the reason why. Like, so we're going to talk about Legends Arceus now, and one of the reasons why I'm not going to complete the Pokedex is there's 2 reasons. One is that
time.
I want to get into some of these good indies that are coming out at the beginning of February before Elden Ring and Horizon, all that stuff hits. But go ahead.
The second reason is the baby Pokemon are really a pain to catch. So
I think
they run away. They run away instantly.
Yeah. There's a lot of them that are a pain to catch. But the other thing is, I know I mentioned this on Twitter, but GameStop in Canada, and David should have jumped on this. GameStop in Canada is offering like close to full retail credit back for the game if you return it within like 2 weeks. So like the value drops $1 per day. So I think if I bring it back tomorrow, I'm getting like $72 for it. I'm like, okay, it's like renting a game from Blockbuster now. I paid $7. I've rolled credits. It's great. Now I can just bring the game back and get something new.
There are people that pretty much do that, and then people are like, oh, this game must suck because there's so many copies. Where it's like, no, there are just people that buy a game, finish in a week, and trade it back in and buy another game.
There are a surprising number of people like me who
hate those people
speed run these games. Hey, it's good for the business. Like that promo is kind of ridiculous, I think. But those used copies, that's all profit there, right? Once they sell those, so
it is.
But yeah, Paige, I wanted to ask about your your Legends Arceus impressions. How much have you played? Where are you in the game? Obviously, we're going to try to keep this pretty spoiler free too.
All right. I think over 10 hours, but I just beat the 3rd noble Pokemon, so you can't talk about past there, and that's probably a good point first. Like, if people don't want to know anything, obviously they shouldn't listen, but I think that's fair enough to talk about everything up to that point.
Yeah, that works.
So, yeah, I picked it up on release day, didn't play very much because I had to hand out copies to people, and so, but I ended up, instead of doing anything else I should be doing, I've been streaming Pokemon and playing it. Typically, I'm doing the whole areas in like 1 or 2 sessions. I really like it, and I'm surprised because like we didn't know too much about the game before it came out, and I was really worried about it. And even in terms of like it's not open world, but the open map sort of thing. I've heard complaints about how there doesn't seem to be much in them, and I don't really agree with that at all because there's Pokemon. You catch Pokemon. I crawl somewhere, I find new Pokemon, I have resources for crafting. I thoroughly go over as much as I can of the map before I actually start doing the story progress and try to catch all the Pokemon I see. By which point, also nightime's occurred, so then I've got all the 800 ghosts clawing around me to watch out for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like say other open world games that I've played like that take after Breath of the Wild sort of. I'd say, say Genshin Impact does a really good job of having beautiful landscapes, and so I'm exploring just for the sake of looking at things. But Pokemon has monsters to catch, so I think it's fine without having superbly amazing vistas and bridges and things to look at.
I don't think there's any getting away from the fact that this is not an attractive game. It's not a game. If you really care about the way things look and performance and the frame rate's steady, but there's tons of pop in. The draw distance is very low, and there are a lot of segments of the game that just look really rough. You hold this up against like the next gen consoles, and it really pales in comparison. But just from a gameplay loop standpoint, this is a really, really fun game, and it's addictive, and it's very hard to put down. And it's probably the closest we've gotten, and it is the closest we've gotten to, if Pokemon were real. Like, if Pokemon were real and we just walked around in a forest and saw Pokemon, and you literally threw the Pokeball at them, that's kind of what this is. And I think it's great.
And so I like how I like the seamlessness of battles where you just throw a Pokemon in the general area, you start a battle. So sometimes you get really good shots because like my Pokemon's on top of a cliff and they're fighting, like, so they got the high ground on another Pokemon. Doesn't influence the actual game, but it makes it look cool. And then as soon as it's finished, you just like I can start walking off while my Pokemon's doing the final hit, so I can start heading towards a tree that I want to shake berries off of. So I really like that. It's not like, it's also fun because you can just stand in between the moves and get like knocked out if you wanted to for some reason.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I didn't realize you could do that. Like if your Pokemon is getting like thunder attacked by a thunderbolt or something, or like an earthquake kind of attack, your character will get hurt by that if you're standing right beside your Pokemon. So you have to give some distance to the battle, which is kind of realistic, right? Like you would obviously it makes sense. You would give the two Pokemon battling some room. You're not going to
especially with like lightning
stand right in the middle
and freaking like smog poison clouds and stuff. You wouldn't really want to be in the battle.
Well, outside of battle, like say the Paris will like stun spore, so you've actually got to like back away to make sure you don't get hit with that. And I was like, there's some Pokemon that have like tried hitting me, and I got like get sort of ride Pokemon like the mounts, and I'm running away like one of the hippo-like ones threw a mud ball at me, and it was like a heat-seeking missile. It was just following me around a curve and everything, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah, you really got to use that dodge move, or just run away as quickly as you can, I guess. I think that's a cool part of the environment, is that Pokemon are not friendly and they're not necessarily skittish. Like they will attack you if they kind of catch sight of you, or they feel threatened by you, they will start attacking you. And so it's hard to get knocked down. Like you have to get hit 5 or 6 times for like a random Pokemon in the wild to beat you, and kind of knock you into submission, I guess. But the noble Pokemon battles, like the boss battles, are no joke. Some of them are pretty tough. They're a nice change of pace from kind of the minute to minute walking around the world catching Pokemon battles that you get into. I kind of liked the boss fights for just being different from the regular gameplay.
Because like so far the main structure is you go to a new area, you go through that, and then you'll fight sort of like a boss regular sort of Pokemon, maybe a trainer battle here and there, and then you'll come back and take care of a noble Pokemon where you've got to dodge the attacks yourself personally to try and calm it down enough or distract it enough that you can start a Pokemon battle to wear it down more.
I didn't actually. What's funny about those boss fights is I didn't actually. I know you're supposed to, kind of get to a point in the battle where you send in your own Pokemon and fight the boss. I think there's the first 2 or 3 noble Pokemon where I didn't even get a chance to send out my Pokemon to battle. I guess I was hitting them enough, or I kind of weakened them enough, just throwing like these little items at them. And kind of knocked them out that way, or subdued them that way. So that was kind of, I was like, oh, where? And then later on, I got to do some of those battles, and that was fun. But it was just kind of funny to not have a chance to do it early on.
I think it might depend on because the first fight, like Cleaver, it's like I dodged and he smacked into a rock. So I think that was that element. That's when I could throw a Pokemon at him.
Right. Yeah.
And then
I think I just had him going around the tree over and over again.
The third one I only threw out a Pokemon once to fight it. And then there was pretty much donezo because I'm just spamming throwing it. It's also because it's obviously got Breath of the Wild influence, but it also I think it has a lot of Monster Hunter influence because you pick a map to load out on. You've got your base camp. Normal Monster Hunter games you can completely access your supplies just from the base camp. So with the crafting element, you can just take the stuff, shove it back in the box because you never have enough room in your bag. And then sometimes I'm just crafting things just to make space so I can pick stuff up.
Well, that's actually, I wanted to ask you guys, what is the crafting all about? Right, I've heard about it a few
Pokeballs.
times, but yeah, like, are you making Pokeballs? Like,
Pokeballs,
what?
potions, smoke. Oh, I tried the smoke bomb. That was actually really cool. So you throw like a smoke bomb, and then just around you, there's like a big puffy cloud of smoke, so no Pokemon can really see you. So
Oh, that's cool.
if you need
I
to
didn't
sneak
make one
up
of
on
those.
one that's like not really near the wild grass or whatever, you can do like it
Mm.
won't follow you. It'll just sort of sit there in that area. But yeah, there's a lot of cool items like that.
Is there any?
Oh,
Is it just like Pokeballs or like potions and stuff, or is there
yeah,
like
that's what I
any
said.
from
Yeah,
Pokeballs?
Pokeballs,
that's
smoke
it,
bombs,
Casey.
potions.
There's not a lot of advanced stuff. Like you're not crafting equipment or armor or anything like
Mm,
that. It's just the consumables that you use on a minute to minute basis. And you can actually buy them anyways. Like if you wanted to,
yeah.
you could just buy potions, buy Pokeballs. So the crafting isn't really even a necessary part of the game. You can do it and you probably should do it because it's cheaper and it's something to do when you're out in the overworld, just
And
gonna
I'm like, ooh, a
knock
tree.
items out of trees, right? There's trees filled with like the component parts all over the place. So you might as well just do that. It's kind of funny to see you throw your Pokemon, whoever you have in your party that's active at that moment, you throw their ball out at the tree that's got the berries in them or the acorns or whatever. And then they come out and they kind of attack the tree, and then the berries come down. And sometimes the trees or the rocks that you break down, a Pokemon will come out and you'll get into a battle that way. So you can find some like special ones or different ones, or some of them have as part of their research goals is finding one from a tree or finding one from a rock. So it's worth doing it for that reason too.
I saw it was funny. There was one with like the rocks bouncing, and it's like I'm in a cutscene, and you can still see it in the background doing that. And I
Oh,
thought it
that's
was
funny.
really
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Um, what was I? I just completely lost the train of thought that I was going on. Yes,
I
something to
wanted
do with
to.
that, but
I wanted
you go.
to. I got a couple of tweets, replies to a tweet from Daniel. Daniel listens to the podcast, and he was asking me about the game. Um, so he was wondering if, for someone who has never really enjoyed the catch them all aspect, is this potentially not the game for me? I don't think you need to catch them all to enjoy the game. However,
You need to do it a lot.
progress will be gated off. You won't be able to go to every next area unless you have filled out the Pokedex to a certain extent. Now, that might mean catching a lot of different Pokemon. It might mean doing specific tasks for each one that you have. So, let's say it's a Bidoof. By fighting a certain number of Bidoofs, you'll raise your research level for that Pokemon. By catching them, you'll keep raising it. Maybe by using a certain move on it, or by seeing the Bidoof use a certain move, you'll raise its level. And if you get its level to 10, you kind of like, there's like check marks that you can earn from catching, battling, all those kind of things with every Pokemon. If you get to level 10, then you get a bonus number of research points, and that'll help you move up the research ranks. So you don't necessarily need to catch them all, but there is a little bit of a grind to it if you don't decide to catch them all. But I think it's really kind of fun in this game to just walk around and see a Pokemon on the overworld pop up that you don't have, and just to throw a Pokeball at it and see what happens. The A lot of the Pokemon you can catch without even damaging. It's only the elite ones or some of the later ones that are a little bit stronger that it's harder to catch just throwing a Pokeball at them. But you get an advantage if you throw a Pokeball
On their
at their
back.
back. You get this kind
And
of like
if
a
you
larger.
like attack them, like say you throw a
Boost.
Pokemon on their back, then they might not move for a couple turns too.
Yeah, that's right. So you get a lot of advantages from either attacking or starting a battle from behind, or from trying to catch from behind. And you can get I'd say most of the Pokemon in the game, I think, are catchable without even going into a battle. But of course, you as part of the research tasks, you do want to try to catch one and then battle one. I would say is a good kind of balance. And then for the ones you use in your party, you're going to get a lot of the research tasks done just by using them, just by using their moves and stuff, right?
I
So,
I caught those 20 Starly without being spotted. I filled that that way all the way
yeah,
up.
yeah,
Um,
Starly's one of the first
I
Pokemon that you
like
see in the
how
game.
they've taken things from Let's Go and then put it in this. So you've got the men, like throwing the Pokeball to catch some of the Pokemon, but they've integrated with like your actual character is throwing the Pokeball, so it's more
Mm-hmm.
like it's not quite like the actual Pokemon Go style. And there's some it'll be a mix because some can be caught quite easily that way, a lot can't. There was another aspect, I swear, of Let's Go that I was thinking that had something to do with this, but I'm not sure anymore.
I definitely see the resemblance to Let's Go. Let's Go and Pokemon Go do feel like they've directly informed this game, right? From seeing Pokemon in the overworld, choosing which ones you want to catch,
That
throwing
was the other
berries
thing.
to subdue them, right?
The Pokemon in the overworld. So people are finding shinies a bit easier because you see them. Like in Pokemon Let's Go, I saw a green Sandshrew and I beeline straight for it. In this game, you actually hear the jingle too, so even if you don't see it, you can turn around
Right.
and find it. I think it like sort of saves the spawn, so you can sort of like save and try to get some other harder
Oh, that's cool.
monsters.
I didn't realize it saved it too. And you
Yeah,
could
because some
maybe you could
people have
even
like
catch extra
passed
ones
out
to
from like
trade.
full damage, and then like the Pokemon's still been there. So
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard
there
about the
is
fall
fall damage in
damage.
the game, and it's not fun. So you
Yep,
got to be
I've
careful.
heard about it. Yeah, I've like I said, I've seen some videos, and I guess you're on like some Pokemon flying around and people going off the edge and stuff. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, until later in the game, falling off a cliff is a very real danger. And even when you're riding like that, so the first mount you get, he's like a giant deer, right?
I
You
keep
can
falling
you
off
can
the
jump off a
bridges
cliff.
into the water.
Yeah,
Blip, 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 blip.
do not go in the water. You will drown in the water. It doesn't necessarily set you back too much. I think it just does a little bit of damage to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is frustrating that you can't really go
So
in water at all.
that's I think that's one of the things like playing at the start. It really annoyed me about exploration. It's like I couldn't climb, I can't swim, and like eventually you get enough Pokemon to be able to I don't need to worry about climbing because eventually I know that there's a flying Pokemon. But it's like because any game that looks sort of Breath of the Wildy or thing like that, I want to climb.
Yeah.
I want to go.
You want to
I'm
climb and glide down.
I'm
It's all about
I'm
climbing and
I'm
gliding.
I'm Skyrim horsing the weird ear to try and get up bumps and stuff. It doesn't
Yeah.
instead of going the long way around.
Yeah, he's fun. He's fun to ride around on. Like it's pretty fast. You do a dash to go faster, and it can do these big jumps. Sometimes getting you up even small hills with that jumping ability. But it's just fun to kind of run around the map on top of the weird deer and just see what Pokemon are popping up, or kind of cover every section of the map to see if there's like a side quest to complete. And there's tons of side quests. I think there's probably close to 100. I know that I'm in the 90s for the ones that I've unlocked so far, so I'm guessing it's around 100. But yeah, I wish the rewards were a little better for them. You just kind of get a few items, and usually they're items you can get fairly easily. Anyways, I wish you got
Hey,
experience or gold for them. But
unlocking new clothing items is extremely important.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I'll give you that. I haven't got to that point. I think one the most worthwhile
George's
quests are
not
the
a
ones.
fashionista.
No, I did change my outfit. And I never do that, but I did that once. It was funny. It was right before a plot event that kind of well, I won't say any more about that, but it was funny to me. I was gonna say some of the important side quests involve like setting up base camps in other parts of the larger areas. So those
Yeah.
are always worth doing because then you have
Gives you
another
more
fast travel
travel.
point. Yeah.
And yeah, I love doing the requests. I feel like they're better than most quests you get in other Pokemon games because it's sort of like, oh, just catch me this Pokemon. Whereas there might be catch me this Pokemon, but then you see that. Oh, my computer's falling asleep. Don't do that. Then you see them actually like own the Pokemon and like interact with it. So this guy gets a Wurmple. And it's actually sitting by him in the world, or you go in the house, and this guy's Parasect will be there with him. So you're seeing people sort of coming around the idea of like Pokemon being something not to be necessarily scared of.
Yeah. Right.
I found the the Mr. Mime quest was funny too.
Yeah, I actually just saw that on Twitter today. I don't even think I encountered that one in my game. I was going to say that there are a bunch of quests where you actually have to give your Pokemon away. And it's kind of like, some of the runs around the farm that's in the big town. Like,
But
oh,
you
yeah,
can swap those ones back. So that
oh,
particular
you can take them
farm
back
ones
after?
you can, yeah, just
Okay,
not the rest of them.
Gotcha, yeah.
I was very upset though because like one of the first requests I came across was I want a big Weasel. My first Weasel I caught was a big one, so I had to give up my first one.
Oh
Right.
no, yeah, your prized
Yeah.
one. Have you
Yeah.
got any shinies yet?
I have there's a guaranteed shiny. If you do like a request, you can get a shiny Ponyta, which is good because Rapidash is one of my favorite Pokemon.
I don't think I've ever had a shiny in any Pokemon game ever.
And
I haven't either.
I got a shiny Bidoof.
Just today?
No, it was probably my second time opening the game, like in the first area, but yeah. yeah, aside from that, my only shinies I've ever had was like the Sandshrew in Let's Go, because again, you can see them, so people are finding more shinies just because you can see them. You don't have to run in and out of
Yeah,
encounters.
it's not a random encounter.
And in Pokemon X, I think was my first shiny as a Budew, so it's like little 3 leaves, but its face are purple.
Yeah, I don't think I have any shinies. Not that I've been necessarily looking out for them. I was kind of just mainlining it through and doing what I needed to do. I was able to roll. Everyone knows I play games pretty fast. Like I rolled credits in the kind of 12 to 15 hour range. It definitely seems like there's lots to do once even after you finish the game. Like there are additional quests. Obviously, completing the Pokedex is one of those big things that you can and might want to do. I'm not going to do that with this game just because there's too many cool games coming out this month that I want to get to, and review games on top of that to tackle. So, but yeah, I had such. We should probably move on soon to the next topic, but I really think it's a fantastic game. I'm surprised how much I liked it. I think not showing off too much was to its advantage, and it's one of those things where sometimes a company doesn't show off a game, and it's either a really bad thing or a really good thing. And I think they really just wanted to keep as much of it a secret because there's so much that's different and new about this game that the joy of discovery definitely feels like a big part of the satisfaction of it. So I think it was
Pokemon
smart to keep it
too.
under wraps. Sorry,
Yeah, I
Casey?
feel like like every Pokemon game, it's like the ins and outs before it's released. I feel like they're like,
Like
these
all
are the
the
new
Pokemon
Pokemon. This
too.
is this, and it's like, give me some surprise.
Yeah,
Like
they just do. It's like too much over marketing of the games, right? Like I feel like
people
Brilliant
are gonna
Diamond,
buy them.
Shining Pearl. We knew so much. We'd seen so many different trailers of that game, but they didn't do that with Legends.
Yeah, no, I
I
think a smart move too.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I don't like, I mean, story wise, we get why, but I don't like that there's no breeding in this game because I really like breeding my Pokemon.
Yeah.
Which is why I usually have like a bias towards wanting female Pokemon, um, especially. Um, so what I find is super weird. I don't know if it's just because of supply issues and stuff, but one thing where people were talking about, oh, Pokemon has to be yearly because of the anime and da 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 da, but like the merch and that, I haven't seen any Pokemon Arceus merch aside from like a Switch bag and a Switch
Mm-hmm.
case. Like that's it. Like Diamond and Pearl had like some pajamas, some pins, some this and that, and Arceus has got like nothing in comparison. And another yearly series, I'd say, and also like having games released within like less than a year of each other. So it's something this one doesn't have to, because they're passing some of the games on to other developers. They can maybe give this the next. I want them to make another game in this style,
Yeah.
and I was like they should be able to give the game more time because, for example, the Atelier series is like a yearly series, mostly at least in like the Western release schedule. But then they did like 1 year where they didn't have any games, and then boom, the next year there was 2 games because they had one that was more like the regular style, and then Atelier
Mm-hmm.
Ryza where they really shook things up and made things really good, and then the one after that came out just a year later, and it was like a big improvement too. So it's like I feel like they've got a good style with Arceus, and they should do at least one more game like that, but better.
Yeah, I'd be really disappointed if this was the only Pokemon Legends game we got. I mean, hopefully they've set it up with that moniker of Pokemon Legends, and then they can just do other kind of legendary Pokemon, other historical versions of different regions of the game would be really cool. But I mean, I don't know. The Pokemon Company's kind of hard to figure out. We've seen spin-offs from them in the past that they haven't gone back to. They haven't gone back to the Let's Go games yet. Pokemon Conquest is one that I really enjoyed. It's kind of a strategy RPG that we haven't seen again. But it would be it'd be such a shame if we didn't see another Legends game. I think it's just really exciting. Obviously, it's a little rough around the edges and spots, but at the heart of it, it's just such a fun experience and such a nice welcome departure from the mainline games. I mean, I would go so far as to say, like, if this became the mainline games, I think it'd be awesome. Like, I think it's just so much. It's so much fresher and just I don't know. I feel just personally like I could get so into this game if I had more time, or if I wanted to, if this was my my holiday game or something like that, I'd gladly complete the Pokedex and see what else I can do here, do some of the online stuff. But yeah, really good game. Hope they do more of it. Casey, you're in for a treat. We'll have to come back and get your thoughts on the game in a few weeks or something.
Well, I was gonna say if David truly doesn't want to play, I know Alex and Perry were talking about a potential spoiler cast.
Yeah.
We could do a little. We can get us three plus those two. Do a big old spoiler cast at some point too.
Yeah. Let's chat about that because it's gonna be fun. And I think there's I meant to say this as well. There's an interesting story at the heart of this game. Like I think the plot really drives you forward, and if you don't, again, kind of replying again to what Daniel was saying about worrying about catching them all as the main objective. There is a very defined story that you are following, and you can just kind of do the story quest, and eventually you'll have to stop and maybe catch or battle some Pokemon, but there's not a ton of trainer battles here. Like there's not really a ton of forced battles. There's more later on in the game, but it's more just kind of freewheeling and just doing what you like. You can kind of explore to your heart's content.
I was thinking, I don't actually miss the lack of trainer battles too much.
Oh, not
maybe
at all. No.
Maybe in like the next version of this, you'd have a bit more because you might be somewhere where people are more used to having Pokemon. I was just thinking, in terms of places to have like another Pokemon Legends game, like they should go for like just like a region they haven't really touched, like maybe the one from Pokemon Colosseum where that game was full of trainer, but the origin or just like something that really hasn't been touched at all. And that'd be fun.
I've only played Colosseum a little bit, but I feel like in terms of storyline or the way it had like kind of an RPG-ish story, like it's kind of close to this game Page. Is there any comparison to make, do you think?
I'm not sure, other than it was like, sort of like the first console Pokemon RPG. It's different and it does different mechanics because as far as I'm aware, I haven't played through the whole thing, there aren't any wild Pokemon battles at all.
Okay.
It is just trainer battles. It's a pretty tough game. You catch Pokemon by stealing other people's Pokemon.
Right. Yes,
because the first thing you do is like you take and there's like a whole storyline with you're stealing what's specific ones you're stealing, like because they've been corrupted. But I want the stealing people's Pokemon again. I want to do that.
Team Rocket Simulator of Pokemon.
Yeah.
Colosseum, right? Yeah. Yeah, but great game. People should definitely look into this. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised if you're a lapsed Pokemon fan. It is very different from the mainline games, and I know that some people have felt fatigue with Pokemon games kind of being the same every year, and then we get a remake like we did last year with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. And those were pretty faithful to the original games. And if you've had enough of that, if you're looking for something else, this is definitely a title to sink your teeth into, I think. So yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend it. Sounds like Paige and I are kind of in the same place in terms of our feelings of the game. She's going to finish it up. Casey's going to get into it, and maybe we'll do a little spoiler cast in a few weeks or something. But enough about Arceus Legends. We also wanted to talk about some games we passed on, larger titles that maybe we, at the time when they came out, we kind of looked at it and thought, maybe not now, or maybe I'll play something else instead. And David, because you haven't spoken in a while, why don't we go first with you? What's a game you passed on that you kind of remember a little more vividly?
I think the biggest named one that I passed on at the time, even though there's a lot of hype for it, was probably The Witcher 3. Like when it first came out, I heard all the stuff about how great it was. It was this huge open world, long, tons of quests and everything. And I passed on it at the time because I don't know what The Witcher is. Like I've never heard of this. I don't know this character. It seems like a slog. Like it seems like, because everybody's talking about how long it is, so I'm like, I'm not gonna worry about it. I think when it came out, it was 2016, right? Something like that, I think.
I was gonna say 2015. You might be right.
Yeah. So I think there's a bunch of games coming out around that time. I remember that was like one of the, I think like Final Fantasy 15 might have came out around then, and
Yeah, May 18, 2015.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there was a bunch of games that I was into at the time that came out in that run around then. So
Mhm.
I definitely didn't bother. And then as time went on, I kind of just, it's the digging in your heels kind of thing where it's like, well, I didn't play it then. Why am I going to play it now? Like, even though people were like, no, you should play this. I'm like, nah, I passed on it then. I don't need to play it.
I'm dying on this hill, boys.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yep. You're not going to convince me. I'm not going to do it. In this case, I was completely in the wrong because I ended up playing it years later, and it's definitely a game worth playing. I was just trying to think to games where I'm like still dying on the hill of I'm not going to pay money for, and I think the biggest one I can think of is Link's Awakening, like the remake on Switch.
Sure.
It's again like I own Link's Awakening. Like I have the cartridge somewhere in the house. I don't know where it ended up. Like the original Game Boy cartridge. I also purchased it on 3DS. I think like through Virtual Console or something. I have it somewhere, or it might even be on the Wii U. I can't remember, one of the others. So I mean, if I wanted to play it, like I could, like the original. And then like when it came out, it's a pretty faithful. From what I heard, it's fairly faithful to the original, other than like some quality of life stuff, and obviously with like the chibi, cartoony look. But I just like $90 for a 10-hour game that I've already played. It's
But
still
it's
like
really
I just
pretty.
can't. I know. It's just I
So
just can't do it.
cute. The
Can't
first
do
boss
it.
looks like a burger.
Yeah. Like it's partly that I've already played it, but like partly of like I don't want to. I don't know. I don't want to. Obviously, everyone's already like the money's already been spent. Nintendo made lots of money, but I'm like, I'm not supporting this. Like Nintendo needs to stop this. This is ridiculous.
You just saved your money so you could buy the like Game and Watch that released in the future and has Link's Awakening on it. So you don't need to
Yeah. Saving my money for multiple repurchases of Legends of Hero games. That's basically where I'm at. I'm like, I'm not promoting this Nintendo crap. I'll wait for the rehash of a Legends of Hero game where they absolutely do nothing and make me pay full price for it anyway.
I'll take some of that money if you're throwing it away, David.
Yeah.
So that's a game. So those are two games you passed on, David. You came back to The Witcher 3 at some point, though, right? Like
I think it was 2020 or maybe 2019. I think I ended up playing through the majority of it. I don't think I actually finished it. Yeah. I think I stopped playing around, like I'd probably put 80 or 100 hours into it, but I ended up, it was like the assault on Carmoran, or I think is the name of the
Carmoran.
Yeah, we were like preparing for the Wild Hunt to come, and I think I like fought a bunch of them, but then I might even have finished that battle, but then I think like you're supposed to chase, like Ciri runs away or something, and you're like chasing them down or something. So I was like really close to the end, but had to move on because I think I had review games or something that came up.
I'm not even sure if that is close to the end, because did you go to Skellige, which is kind of in the far north?
Yeah. I was there earlier. Yeah, I had been there. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember if that assault on Kaer Morhen was before Skellige or after, because I do remember it kind of being like a climax point of the game for sure.
I think they go back there though. Like I definitely went there first because that's one of the places that Ciri ends up. Like you play as Ciri there. She's like healing from a teleport or something. But I think the game ends or you do end up with, like, when you're after that battle, you end up there. So I do think you did. Sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you end up there. So
I wanted to ask this question before we move on to the next game we passed on. So Witcher 3 you came back to and ended up really enjoying. Link's Awakening remake. What are the chances you're going to pick that up at some point and maybe really enjoy that too?
It depends on the chances of Nintendo fixing the price to like $19.99.
Okay, so zero then.
Yeah. That's pretty much.
He'll just have to buy a copy in front of a building from a shady street.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And hope it goes up 5 times in value over the next next.
I've got a bot searching Kijiji that just looks for the Link's Awakening remake for $19.99, and with the tag, no questions asked.
there's going to be a save file with Tina on it, and you're going to break her heart again. So
And it's all right. Save files saved to the Switch now, so
that's
you
right.
can't tell.
Yeah, good point. Good
You
point.
won't even know. Uh, you'd only know it's pre-owned if you check for the gold points, I guess.
Yes,
Oh, that's right.
No, Nintendo only lets you get them for like a year or something after
Yeah.
for some
Oh,
asinine reason.
that's a whole another thing. But like a lot of a lot of indie games that get physical releases, their gold points don't redeem
Yeah,
because
right.
you've got to update the game to allow for it. So, or like sometimes I've had some region problems, and it's like what? So I pay more for the game and I don't get any benefit.
Paige, I'm so happy you brought up gold points because I literally took Arceus out of my console to go and trade it in tomorrow. I did
Yeah,
not
you were
redeem
like,
for the gold points. I'm going to put it back in my
oh
Switch
yeah,
after the podcast. I'm going to get my gold points, and then I'm going to ship it off to GameStop. So,
yeah.
So you
thank you for bringing that up.
so you're just saying Nintendo's being stingy with the rewards? Like that's mind blowing to me.
At
Like
least,
that,
hey, at least, at least it's
more
something.
specifically, it's like they've got to like update it later. So I've had issues with like I've bought these indie releases and then I don't get anything. It's like you can't
Yeah,
redeem
that's
somewhere.
weird.
Or like physical only games you can't. So like Ring Fit you can't because it doesn't exist in the eShop.
Right.
So
Yes.
you can't redeem anything for Cooking Mama or Ring Fit because it's
Hmm.
physical
Yeah.
only.
So another game we passed on this time, Casey. You've got in the notes a game that I'm very, very fond of, and I know you. I think you did end up coming back to it. What game did you pass on initially?
Yeah, definitely came back to it. That was Final Fantasy VII Remake. Mostly, well, actually, entirely because I didn't have a PlayStation at the time.
Yeah.
So that one was really painful because I didn't really want to pass on it. And then everyone was loving it, having the best time ever. And it was like, oh, man. But it was worth the wait because, man, that game is so good. But it's funny, yeah, I was trying to think of other games. I see David putting Ni no Kuni 2 in there.
That's a cautionary tale, I think.
Yeah, that was one I wish I had passed
Me
on.
too. I wish I'd passed on that as well. I
that
remember how good the
game
first one is only.
Stinks on ice.
Yeah.
I like
And
it.
if you think about it, you got to stink pretty darn bad
Sorry,
to
Paige.
be stinky on ice. But
To be fair, I didn't play the first one, so the comparison.
the first one overrated, but a good
Get
game.
out of here.
It's a good game. You can play that game for sure, but it is overrated.
Not
no doubt.
Octopath overrated though.
No, not that.
Hold on.
Well,
Are you saying we only have like 2 minutes
is-
left in the episode? We're already starting
Octopath
the.
is perfectly rated as terrible.
Hey,
Ni no
we've
Kuni
got
2,
people at home with shots and they're ready to drink, and we have to
Yeah.
get out the Legends of Heroes and the Octopath. We
I like
we
how-
cannot let our listeners go sober. Like that's we cannot.
We've
finish
replaced replaced the last call with the last shot at Octopath. That's been literally a drinking shot and a shot at me.
right? With Pam from The Office, and they show two different pictures. It's like
That's right. They're the same.
Octopath Traveler, Ni no Kuni 2. They're the same, they're terrible.
That is just. Oh, I guarantee you, we're gonna lose subscribers for a comment like that.
Is it so bad you returned it though? Because I've got games that I actually returned within like a couple days of
I
owning.
wish. I don't know. I definitely don't have it anymore.
I definitely returned it a week after.
Okay,
Man, that
this is
game.
the part where I say I don't have it either, but not because I don't love it.
I have the collector's edition.
No,
though.
Ni no Kuni too. I mean,
Oh, sorry.
I returned Octopath.
Okay.
I still have Octopath. I still have it.
See,
I
Dave
traded
is still, I don't
Octopath
even
in.
have it, so David should be the one defending it here.
That's because I got burned. Like I'm an old man who traded in all his Nintendo 64 games that are worth like thousands of dollars, and now I wish I hadn't done it. So now I rarely return anything. Or
You should be
trade it
selling
in.
them in front of you. You should be selling them in front of someone else's house. You know that's the only way to make money in this game.
Clearly.
So Casey, when you played FF7 Remake, you played the PS5 version, right? Like, so you kind of played the
No.
best version of this game, no?
No, I got my PlayStation. I think it was in like March or April, so I knew I was a few months off, and they gave me the free version, right, with PS Plus,
Right? Yes. That's
and then
right.
I was like, well, I'm gonna play like the first little bit just to see how cool it looks, and then it was all over but the crying. I played the Yuffie DLC, of course, but yeah, no, I didn't. And I played a few hours of the PS5 version, but
Okay.
no, I played first through the PS4.
Yeah, I definitely want to dive back into that game once we get an announcement for part 2. I want to see how the
They said
PlayStation
this
5
year,
version
right?
plays. I can't imagine we might see
We'll
it
get
this year.
Well, that's
news
what I
this
mean.
year, I
See it,
Get
think.
see it,
news
see
this
it.
year,
Yeah.
right? Like that should happen. But I mean, you've got Final Fantasy Origins, and you've got potentially FF16 for the end of the year. So a third title, in addition to all the Pixel remasters coming to Switch, I mean, that's probably just too much, right?
Square has like 300 games in development right now. I don't know where. Like, it's almost like they have a game per employee, and they're just assigned it, and
I
like
mean,
it's
that
just
might
nuts.
make
They're about to get bought by Sony or Nintendo or Xbox, right? Like someone's gonna
I
buy
don't
them
know if
soon
they can
too, no
afford
doubt.
that Final Fantasy 14 money prices.
Could you
True.
imagine Microsoft bought Square Enix? That would be mind-boggling.
Yeah.
That's
I would probably just sell my PS5 and get an Xbox right now.
I think this is the whole reason Stranger Paradise was greenlit, because there was all this talk about companies buying them up, and we're like, let's make a game that will make our company so unattractive to other companies
Yeah.
that no one will want to be associated with this game, so no one will buy us.
This coming from the man who's getting a free hat with his pre-order.
You're dang straight.
He's totally gonna rock that hat all the time too.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
that's
I'm gonna wear it in the
everyday
shower.
wear.
It's just not coming
I
off.
was I was just gonna check, but Team Ninja's working on Stranger Paradise, and Team Ninja isn't out there owned by Microsoft.
Are they owned by Microsoft?
Yeah, or they were
Oh no, they're
acquired.
starting already.
So it is so
Yeah.
it is must just be a partnership, right? Then.
Yeah.
I guess we have to
Square's
keep the
next.
Square. We got to keep the Square executives off the elevators, because that's where all the business deals happen. Apparently,
No,
is
Paige,
like,
you're thinking of Ninja Theory. I had to look that up for a sec. You're thinking of Ninja
I
Ninja
se-
Theory makes Senua's Sacrifice, right?
No, I searched. Unless someone else. Let me have a look. Team Ninja Micro. Yeah.
They're a subsidiary of Koei Tecmo. I don't know that they're owned by.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
big
why
three.
it's co-developed by Koei Tecmo. Okay, so then
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah.
Okay.
We always see
Google it.
those two together, but
That's all right.
Ninja Theory is the one you're thinking of, and it is confusing
Yeah.
because they're
Well,
operating
no,
studios
because
for
I
Ninja.
literally on the Google thing, it's like it's Team Ninja owned by Microsoft, and then but the
Yeah.
RC says Ninja Theory underneath the question, so even Google's like wrong.
There you go. So Paige, you have some
Okay.
games you passed on / returned.
Turned
What
within.
did
So
you actually picked them up and then brought them back? So that's
yep.
you
I made
passed them
sure
late.
not to redeem the gold points, so I could
Right,
return
that's
it
good.
as new.
There you go.
Yeah, the 2020 wasn't a good year, and it was all because of 51 worldwide games and Paper Mario Origami King.
Yeah, that's the reason.
That for me was not a good winter. So the Clubhouse Games was first. I thought, heck yeah! I was staying at my mum's place for a while because of like we didn't know what's going on with lockdowns and stuff. That game is not good for playing with other people in the same room as you. There are very few games it will allow you. Like out of the 51, there is a very small handful of games you can play together. And even though we all have Nintendo Switches, and you can do like you download a thing on the eShop and you can do the local play, so that gives you a few more games to play. I find that like the ad hoc on the Switch often is really terrible. And
Yeah.
whenever I commented on it, people always on Twitter, like, as soon as you complain about something, people are like, well, I've never had that problem. And I'm like, wow, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, Paige.
That doesn't mean
duh.
it's not, like, I've literally got them, like, right next to each other and it's not communicating. So we couldn't even, after all, like, downloading, like, all of that on everyone's consoles and waiting for, like, an hour or so, we couldn't play hardly any games. So it's great if you're by yourself or you're playing online, but if you want to play these classic board games with your family and friends, like it's just useless. So I returned it within a few days, like the same weekend that I released. And then Paper Mario Origami King, that's more of, I don't like puzzles very much because I'm not very smart, and all the boss fights are these like puzzle turning around thingies. So it was very much not my thing.
Messing with your brain.
I liked running around and exploring and like smacking and grabbing stuff. Other than it was quite slow. I don't know if you could upgrade your shoes at some point because I was just like, can I run, please? This is so slow. But I did not like the boss mechanics, things like that. So I returned that as well because it was just like, I'm not putting myself through this. Sometimes it's better just to walk away.
Yeah, no, that was one of my New Year's resolutions. It's just if you're not enjoying a game, you
Put
move
it down.
on and play something else. There's too many good games out there to be playing something you don't enjoy. So yeah, kudos to you for following through on both of those games with that page, even though they're from 2020. But still, you knew to get out while you could and move on to
Yeah.
something else. I don't really have a good one. Like I think games I've passed on. I think of like, Skyward Sword or Twilight Princess HD, like games like 3D Zeldas. I think are
What a
easy for me
weirdo.
to pass on because I know I know I'm in the minority here. Like Skyward Sword even added like button controls. Whether they're good or not is another story, but it added something so I didn't even have to do motion controls, which is my main reason for not wanting to play it. So why am I still passing on that game? I don't know. But I think it's just my dislike, in kind of general dislike of 3D Zeldas. I really do prefer the top-down style. Breath of the Wild is kind of an outlier in that way, and I think it's because it's such a different game. It's really an open world Zelda game. It's not quite like the normal 3D Zeldas that we have. But I don't even have really a strong desire to, Majora's Mask is coming to the Switch Online this month. I don't have a strong desire to go back to it, even though, I respect those games for sure. But I feel like they are of that era. And if I was going to go back, I'd play the 3D versions, I think, on 3DS.
I thought
But
people
yes,
didn't like the 3DS version of Majora's Mask.
yeah, I don't know. It depends who you ask. Like,
Unless you want to play music, and then it's good.
I feel like for someone who doesn't like 3D Zeldas, it's a little more accessible, and so I would prefer the accessibility changes, maybe the simplification of some of the systems. But yeah, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, really, yeah, Skyward Sword is a game I probably should have tried or gotten into, but for whatever reason, I just don't feel a strong pull to go to it, and I don't know if I'm ever going to play it. Like
You didn't miss much.
maybe not. I think I would like to try it, but again, it's a game that's probably never going to go on sale, just like Link's Awakening, the remake
Yeah.
with David mentioning there. Like, yeah, if that game went half price, I'd probably pick it up. But as it stands, I'm not paying $70, $80 for a game that I think I won't like anyways, just because I don't like that style of Zelda game. So yeah, so I think it's probably the one for me. But
Someone's got to adopt you into the family membership.
you know what? I feel bad because I think a lot of people really like 3D Zelda games, and they just haven't really stuck with me. I'm just such a 2D guy, and it's the same with RPGs. I think I really like the 2D style RPGs, and it's only more
Stuck
recently we've gotten.
I was just gonna say,
I
this
am
is
totally.
He's
this is
the
guy who
link to
played-
the past.
Yeah, this is the guy who played 2D Dragon Quest 11. So
Exactly, and I plan to start Dragon Quest 11, and I knew this would happen, but of course, I get waylaid by all these other games coming out, like Legends Arceus, which I certainly do not regret in the slightest. But I've just picked up another review game. So
you're saying you don't have an extra 100 hours? Just
I know,
lying
really.
around?
That's nothing.
Yeah, I now that we've crossed into the threshold that is February, I cannot start Dragon Quest 11 with Elden Ring coming out so soon in this short month. So
I could just time chamber to play games, and then outside time chamber I can just play multiplayer games because
That's it. Yeah, Paige, if you could invent one of those and send one over to Canada, that'd be fantastic.
Well, you just
send one to the States too.
Yeah. But I think that's pretty good. I think that'll do us for this week. So some nice impressions of Pokemon Legends Arceus. Paige and I thoroughly enjoyed the game. Some games we passed on that some of us came back to them, some of us just returned them, or probably never going back to them. And then just some Pokemon generations that we which ones did we play? Which one did we miss? It's funny. Pokemon keeps coming back to its old games, and so you never feel like you miss out on something for too long. Like we've seen Kanto so many different times, and then through re-releases as well, like the 3DS versions. But I'm just more Legends Arceus, more experimentation. Pokemon Company, I think that's what we would love to see, is not just more remakes, but just totally new versions of games, and then just iterate on them. Like let's see what else they can do. Make an open world that is somewhat somewhat attractive, not just so ugly in some parts. I'll give you this. I think the most beautiful part of Arceus, Legends Arceus, is the loading screens. They're slight, but they actually seem kind of artistic, like kind of these still shots. It's when the game's in motion that it really looks quite muddy and everything like that.
Falls apart.
Pretty much, yeah. But that that's Legends Arceus and some other games that we may or may not get back to, and it's, I guess, in the rear view mirror for some of us. But thanks for Casey and Paige and David for joining us for this episode. It's fun to talk about new games, and we've got lots coming down the pipe. That's for sure. We have scheduled our Castlevania, Super Castlevania 4 Dirty Mage crossover, so that'll be happening at the end of February. So stay tuned for that. Now that Legends is done, David and I have some review games we're going to be talking about next week. What else were we? David, I know we were talking about this. We were going to talk about our review games, and we're going to talk about Record of Lodoss War, Deedlit, and Wonder Labyrinth, which I turned you on to, and you really enjoyed.
I did really enjoy it. That was the game I was looking for all along when we finished Symphony of the Night. I was like, I need to play a game just like this. And then I got lots of great recommendations from people, but they all just looked not quite it. And then I played this, and I'm like, this is it. This is the thing I wanted. It's just like a faster version of Symphony.
And it's such a nice palate cleanser between larger games because it's quick, quick 5 hours that goes by really fast too. So that was nice.
Yeah. Quick but extreme. Like, I think I was sweating when I went to bed last night after that final. I was like, there was like a boss. The way that it ends is there's like a boss rush and a final boss. And I was just like dying at the end. I was like, oh my God. I need to go to bed, but I'm not going until this is done.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we're kind of spoiling a little bit of what next episode will be about, but we've got a review game to talk about. We're going to talk about Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth, and I know you said something else.
Well, in Castlevania 4, and
I mean something else for next. Yeah.
Oh, there's Valkyrie Chronicles might be
right.
down.
Yes. That I need now that I'm finished Legends. I am going to start playing my PS5 again. So that is what I want to get into. Yes. So, stay tuned for episodes on those games and more coming up. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. You can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/TheThirstyMage, on Twitter @TheThirstyMage. Let us know what games you'd love us to cover in 2022. Your thoughts on some of the games we've talked about. Are you playing Legends Arceus? What do you think so far? Can we push David to take the plunge there?
Push him off to take full damage.
That's right. Yeah. Don't push him too far. Maybe just into the river.
He'll lose his satchel.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, thanks again, everybody. Hope everyone has a wonderful week ahead. Rest of the week, good evening, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye for now.
Adios.
Bye.